Welcome back to Creepy Kitty Creations. Today we'll finally be making the stand for these little monsters. I mean, little darlings. What?
What took you so long?
I know I did. I'm sorry. I got to it in the end, so forgive me? Well, they'll have to forgive me because I must admit it's a really cool stand and I hope you guys enjoy it. Let's get started. So first I super glued these bits of cardboard together just from a normal craft shop, and they'll be the base for this double stand. So first I figure out how far apart I want them spaced so I can figure out where to drill the hole for the saddle stand. Now, like with Julietta's or the Blood Nun's stand, I'm measuring out squares for the tiles out of craft foam and ruling the lines so that they're all, well, they should be equal sizes. They don't quite all fit, so I'll trim those off once I hot glue them in place, but first I want to just lay them out. Some of the squares aren't quite even, so this way I'll pick out the best one. So now I'm going to make the saddle stand just the same way I always do, using a bit of wire and the doll as a guide, squeezing the back of the stand together, and again trying that out for size, and then filling the seat with hot glue. This gives the doll something to cling to and makes it less likely that they're going to get imbalanced or fall. Then I'm going to drill the hole based on the guides that I did, although technically I didn't have to do this until later since I still have to glue the stones, well, the foam stones in place, but this gives me a marker at the base of the stand on the underside. So now I'm just going to glue these down with hot glue. I'm not worried about these overlapping. I'll trim that down with a razor later. Now I'm re-drilling the hole through the foam using the underside as a guide. So now that these have this, we need to work out the height. So we'll need the doll for that. Make a wee mark using the wire clippers, and then I'm just gonna test that out again, make sure that it's the right height, seal it with a bit of hot glue to stick through, which is why I'm using a silicone mat so that it won't stick to the base and it keeps it in place while it dries. Then once that's dried, I can put some hot glue at the bottom of the stand to seal those in, and I do the same with the second saddle stand too. Now to trim off the excess. I'm just going to take a stone from the backyard and squish it into the foam to get some of that nice rock texture. I learned this from, for those of you who haven't seen their channel before, Nerd Forge is amazing. They build the most insane dioramas. If you haven't seen their channel yet, check it out. I think you will enjoy it and really fix those in place with a few dabs of super glue. So this is what that texture looks like. I hope you've all been enjoying the spooky season. I must admit, I am really looking forward to doing a Halloween doll. This was a nice sort of creepy build that was different from doing a creepy doll. So this was really good fun. So I'm just doing a base coat in grey paint to make it look like stone tiles. If you haven't heard the story that these black-eyed children in the stand is based off, do check it out. I've linked it up above. Now I'm just taking some, technically this is dirt, but because I live by the beach, it's like a fine grit sand. That's just from out of our garden, so I sprinkle that on to add texture and give a little bit of that stony grit, or that gritty look that a lot of stones have. And now I'm just going to spray it over here with some watered down PVA. My computer is also on my craft desk, so I don't want to get PVA all over it. So this will take a while to dry. I thought that I'd actually gotten footage and filmed painting the stand, but it must have gotten corrupted or lost because I cannot find it anywhere. I'm sorry about that. We'll be able to see more on that a bit later. This is what it's looking like after a black wash and some dry brushing. So now we're going to make a welcome mat because these children stand outside the door waiting for the door to be opened. So I thought a welcome mat could show this on the stand without having an entire exhibit of like the outside of a house. So I'm just cutting out some black foam to use as the base of the doormat. I want this to be slightly bigger to mimic that sort of black trim that you see with a lot of those sorts of welcome mats. And I'm just going to stick that onto a piece of cardboard with fabric glue. The cardboard's just going to give it a bit more stability than if I were to glue the Hessian fabric straight onto the foam. So now we're going to cover this in fabric glue as well so that we can attach the Hessian. And now that that's all dry, we can start adding the trim, which is why I cut the foam a little bit bigger. This is just to give it the way, like more of the thickness that that trim would actually have in real life. And we can't have a welcome mat without the welcome. So I'm just painting that on with plain acrylics, just lightly at first, and then going over it a bit thicker once I'm confident that I've spelt it correctly. Does anyone else feel like whenever they paint things like words on a project, you just feel like suddenly you can't spell and a perfectly spelled word will just look wrong to you no matter what? Is that just me? Then I just take my very sharp sculpting tool and make these little line indents in the foam. Again, just to mimic the texture of what these sorts of welcome mat trims have in real life. Okay, let's try it out for size. Looking good. Now to just secure it with some super glue. Make sure it's nice and secure with some of these bull clips, and that should be right as rain. And it's done! I'm really happy with how it came out. I think it's so cute, but it seems to just be missing a little something, you know? Like, it doesn't quite have the creep factor that I wanted for the story. So why don't we take this to the next level and really go all out? What do you say? So what I need for my idea is just your regular old shoebox. And it's actually the perfect fit for this stand, and I freely admit I did not measure this. I only thought of this idea after I finished the stand, so I'm really happy that it fit. But so far it's not very creepy or pretty, so I'm going to take just some cardboard from a cereal box, measure it to fit the back, cut that down, and fit it to the back of the box. Now, these children have actually already been bought, so they're going to be shipped, and I want them to be safe during shipping. So what I'll do the same thing that I did with my blood nun and attach them to the back with some twisty ties. So I want the person who's bought them to be able to take the back out and be able to undo those ties easily. So that's why the back is going to be removable. And I cut something down for the sides as well, cover up and get it all nice and flat, and add a tab so that the owner can get them out easily. There's nothing worse than trying to get flat cardboard out of a cardboard box, am I right? So that's both sides fitted and cut down. Now for the bottom. Sorry about the camera angles, I'm not used to filming something this big. I bought a new stand especially, and I'm not quite used to the placement. I'm just going to spread out some tacky glue and glue on those sides. And using my infinite number of bull clips again to really stick those together and give it a really secure bond. I made some tiles out of cardboard as well, so I'm just going to glue those down. In hindsight, I wish I had used foam because the foam absorbs texture better with the rock. But they came out pretty good. Overall, I'm happy with them. I drew the front door on the back of the box as a guide. So now we're going to cut out the window with an X-Acto knife, which wasn't as bad as I expected it to be. A lot trickier, but it went a lot more smoothly than I thought it would. So now we have a window. Now I'm using the guide on the back as a guide for cutting out the foam. I actually modelled this after my front door, but I added a window. So I'm trying to make that sort of raised texture that you can get with the sculpted wood doors. But my pieces of foam are only so long, so I'm trying to work it out in a way where I can get the joins in places where you would naturally find a join in a door. And now I'm just laying them out on the front of the box to make sure that they all fit the way they should. So I ended up cutting out the sides of the beveled main part of the door, and I'm just gluing it onto another piece of foam and cutting around it so that it's thicker, because I couldn't quite get the bevel I wanted just using a sculpting tool, so they actually worked better as separate parts. and having the join here where it would be at the window, so hopefully it's not too jarring and doesn't look too bad. For the door handle, I'm taking some skewers and just poking them through, so I have the holes all mapped out already, so it's all sorted by the time I'm texturizing and need to make the handle. Now I'm just going to neaten around here with these little shavings of popsicle sticks, and that's just to neaten where I've cut through the shoebox with the X-Acto knife, so this should make it look a lot neater. And I was curious at this stage, so I actually started texturizing some of the foam just to see what it would look like with the foam texture, and it works really well. And I cut out the pane that I'd done before because I realized I needed to put something like glass in, so what I'd already installed wasn't going to work, so I just cut them out. I'm gluing on the back of the box, and then I'm going to stick on that clear film so that it looks a bit like a window. But I want it all to be even and flat, so I'm putting down these little bits of card first so that it's all flat and even and will be sticking evenly. So while that dries, I'm going to get the backboard all set up. So I'm using some masking tape so that this will be easy to paint on afterwards. I've never used this technique before, but I've always wanted to try it, where you just splodge your paint on and then just blur it all together with the paintbrush to get a really nice gradient. So this was exciting to try. And now while we wait for that to dry, I go back to the main door. I did the texturizing off camera just because it took a really long time. So now I'm going over the inside and outside with a concoction of PVA and black acrylic, just to make sure everything is nice and glued and secure, as well as kind of priming it as a base coat. And back to our now dry backboard to make some stars for the night sky. So just some acrylic paint, an old toothbrush, and you just flick it with your thumb and it should make some really nice natural looking stars. I don't want it on the bottom half because they're supposed to be knocking on a door in a suburb, so you wouldn't really see stars down there. I'm also actually going over these with a little bit of glow-in-the-dark paint as well. I did that off camera because I've actually never used that paint before, so we'll see how that turns out a bit later. Now the green is a bit too green, so I'm taking a sponge with some black acrylic and just dabbing that on, and then I'll be taking a paintbrush to make a black wash that can then be dabbed with a tissue to just soften that green a bit and make it not quite so saturated. Looks a lot better, doesn't it? Now we can peel off the masking tape. I wish I had recorded the audio and so that it had a bit of ASMR. Sorry. Now going over it with white acrylic just to neaten that up a bit before going over with the main colour, red. So this is how it's looking after about 3 coats, and let's go see how it looks glow in the dark. Oh my gosh, it worked! That looks so good! So this can be charged either in sunlight or UV light. I'm just using a little UV light that you use for curing your nails. And now I'm starting the very timely task of cutting out enough floorboards or covering for the walls to cover the entire shoebox. Timber cladding has become quite popular on the exterior of houses lately, especially cedar or American oak, so I thought this could look very cool as sort of the exterior of the house around the door. Now, I know we're not going to see the back of the box, but I wouldn't be happy just finishing it like this, so everything is getting a nice thick coat of black paint so that everything has a nice finish. And I mean, they are the black-eyed children. It's pretty suitable, I think, and very satisfying to see that cardboard colour disappear. Sorry, my head keeps getting in the way. Again, I was using a tripod instead of my usual phone arm, so I wasn't quite used to the camera angle or the positioning, so I'll try to do better next time. Okay, now I can show you how I painted the base of the stand as well. I'm doing this to match, just doing a base coat in grey acrylic. And then just like with the Blood Nun stand, I'm going to go over each tile in a slightly different colour after going over it with this sort of sandy grit. And doing the base coat on the inside again to look like cladding, as if the front door is sort of indented in the house. I don't know if I'm explaining that right, but again, it's modelled after my house. Although we don't have timber cladding, we've got brick. I know this looks pretty crazy, but trust the process. Once it gets a black wash and some dry brushing, you won't even hardly notice that the bricks are different colours. It makes it surprisingly realistic, but I always have to remind myself, trust the process. Getting closer to Halloween, I was really enjoying this part, especially just making, because the whole thing is sort of a door and the children are arriving and knocking at the door, which is very Halloween-y. Here you can tell that I ran out of brown colour foam, so it's actually a combination of light brown, dark brown, pink and red. So everything is getting a coat in black acrylic paint first as a base for the timber finish that's going to be painted on later. Will look so much better if this is all black first. But yeah, I sort of love how even though this is specifically for the short story that I wrote, it's also very fitting for Halloween, having children knocking at your door. So this has definitely started getting me into the spooky season spirit. I hope it does for you guys too. Best time of the year. For the door handle, I'm going to take a popsicle stick. I'm just cutting the ends off, painting it black, and then going over it with this kind of metallic pewter colour. I haven't had a chance to use this yet, and I must say I do love this paint. I know this is quite a little bit different from my usual content since I'm not making a doll in this video, but I really hope you enjoy this and let me know if you want to see more. There are a few other non-doll related halves, and they will still relate to a particular doll, but there's quite a few things I want to try, so let me know if you'd like to see more of that. Now I'm just going to dry brush some of the main brown tone on the entire box to get that timber look. I'm dry brushing it mostly because I want some of that black to show through as shading. So this is a sort of mid-brown, and then I'm going to go over it dry brushing again with a lighter brown, and then again with white to make it look a bit more aged. The dry brushing really does make all the difference in making timber and textures look worn, and it looks quite creepy. I'm really happy with how it came out. How are you guys celebrating the spooky season? So far I've already watched Sweeney Todd, Practical Magic, and we're saving some of our favourite Halloween ones for Halloween, like Hocus Pocus and Hocus Pocus 2. Now let me know what kind of movies and things you like doing on Halloween. So I've glued the doorknob to the post, and I'm just going to poke those through to get it to the right length before shortening and cutting off the skewers and securing them with some hot glue at the back. Did you see where that landed? And this one just disappears into nothingness. I still don't know where it is. And I'm going over the framing of the window with the same pewter as the doorknob to tie it all in. Time for the black wash. This is just watered down black paint that you just pop on over the dry acrylic, and you just pat away the excess with a tissue. Sometimes it can take a few passes for it to actually have some decent shadowing to it, so you just keep doing it until you're happy with it. And I do the same for the cardboard wood planks on the side. And once that's all dry, you can dry brush with a bit of white paint. I'm using an old makeup brush because it actually works really well. And now to go over everything with matte Liquitex varnish, just to really make that paint job last. And now we have a finished door shoebox display. I ended up sticking some Velcro to the back just to make sure that that back piece sticks really well but can still come off when taking the dolls out. So the first way we can display them is by putting the original stand inside the shoebox and then standing them up inside. Oh, and we can also display them in another way. We could display them with the base stand out a little bit so that it sort of connects to the base of the shoebox, like this. Or another way we could display them is let's just pop them aside there, close the door, and have them just standing by the door. It looks so cute and creepy. I love it. I really hope that the new owner of these lovely wee creepy children love it as well. I'm really looking forward to sending it to her. I'm really glad that I went further than just the wee little base stand. The base stand is cute, but this just suits the creepy of the story so perfectly. So if you haven't seen that video making the little black-eyed boy, that has the audiobook, or if you just want to listen to the audiobook, I do have that on my author channel, linked above. I really hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you closer to Halloween with another creepy repaint. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you like the video, and see you next time.